I'm Gary Anthony Ramsay with your Our News Now Rewind. Stories making headlines for the week ending May 28, 2011. Our top stories include Barack Obama lays out his Mideast peace philosophy and is quickly blasted by critics. Tornadoes ravage the Midwest, killing hundreds of people in Missouri and Minnesota. Bishop Eddie Long settles a sex suit with 4 men who say they were abused by the pastor. Ebola makes a deadly return to Africa. Are African-American moviegoers keeping it real at the movies? And a fighter for the rights of black Brazilians passes away. Our top story. Before leaving the G8 summit, the president sits down with the Prime Minister of Israel and lays out the Obama administration's Mideast peace policy. Barack Obama met with Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House to talk about restarting the stalled peace process, but the talks seemed to create more disagreement than unity.
We believe the borders of Israel and Palestine should be based on the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps, so that secure and recognized borders are established for both states.
Netanyahu rejected the proposal as, quote, indefensible. Some Republicans were also very vocal about criticizing the president, even though the Bush administration made the same recommendation. The first stop on the president's European tour took the Obamas to the ancestral home of his mother's side of the family, Ireland. But it was back to business at the G8 summit, where Western countries discussed Europe's tremendous debt, long-term military alliances, and aid to emerging Middle East democracies. Upon his arrival back in the United States, the president will visit the Midwest, where nearly 200 people died in a series of deadly tornadoes that ripped through Missouri and Minnesota.
The next thing you know, there was just stuff flying everywhere, and we started scrambling around in the garage with kids in our hands, just trying to stay protected.
The town of Joplin, Missouri, probably took the biggest beating. Thousands of people are homeless, thousands more are still without power. A lawsuit by 4 men who say they were sexually abused by the pastor of a Georgia megachurch have settled with Bishop Eddie Long. The terms of the agreement appear to be sealed, but the lawsuit filed in September claimed that Long, quote, has a pattern and practice of singling out a select group of young male church members and using his authority as bishop over them to ultimately bring them to engage in sexual relationships. Long has always denied the allegations. New figures from the Labor Department show that black teens are probably bearing the biggest brunt of the roller coaster economy. While national unemployment stands at 9%, the unemployment rate among teenagers between the ages of 16 and 19 in general is 23%. But among black teens, that stat jumps to more than 40%. Analysts go on to say these numbers are from a group that is the least likely to get employment due to racism, location, and education. A new survey reveals that white Americans feel they are being treated the harshest when it comes to racism gains in the United States. A study conducted by professors from Tufts and Harvard University surveyed 209 white and 208 black men and women. They asked them to rate racism on a scale of 1 to 10 from the 1950s through 2010. For the 2000s, 11% of whites gave anti-white bias a maximum of 10 out of 10 rating, compared to only 2% of whites who did so for anti-black bias. Whites believe that discrimination against them had increased an average of 1.8 on a scale of 1 to 10 in the 1950s and 4.7 out of 10 in 2000s. The results are published in the May issue of Perspectives on Psychological Science. For a more complete look at the survey's questions and the results, go to the bottom of the webpage and click your way through. In your Our News Now World Wrap, a deadly disease has killed 1 person but has millions holding their breath as the Ebola virus returns to Africa. The virus, which attacks the body's blood vessels, first emerged in Africa in 1976 and has a mortality rate of between 70 and 90%. The most recent outbreak in 2008 killed 38 people, but a 2004 outbreak killed more than 200, and one in the Congo the year before killed more than 400. A 12-year-old girl so far is the only fatality, but doctors are monitoring more than 30 people with similar symptoms. In the Sudan, a now split country could be on the brink of war once again after northern troops storm and take a border town that is rich with oil and fertile for grazing stock. Troops from Sudan chased away troops from the newly emancipated South Sudan in the town of Abyei. Northern leader Omar al-Bashir has vowed to keep the town, ignoring warnings from the United Nations. Sudanese residents recently approved a secession referendum that split the country in two and created South Sudan.
If anybody thinks that SPLA and the government of Southern Sudan are going to retaliate by attacking Abyei or attacking anywhere in Sudan, we are not going to do it.
More than 150,000 people have fled the area. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela makes a surprise visit to his childhood village. The 92-year-old former president flew to Qunu from Johannesburg with a full medical team. The Nobel Peace Prize winner has been recovering at his residence in Johannesburg after being treated for an acute respiratory infection earlier this year. He has not appeared at a public engagement since the closing ceremony of the World Cup in Johannesburg in July of 2010. That's your World Wrap. In cultural news, less than a week after a magazine said that black women are less attractive, critics are now blasting a soap campaign they say suggests being whiter is better. The Dove ad features 3 women of various skin tones. Behind them is a before and after shot of using the soap. The black woman on the left is placed in front of the before sample, and the white woman is located in front of the after example. Dove denied sending any subliminal messages, releasing a statement that said, in part, all 3 women are intended to demonstrate the after product benefit. We do not condone any activity or imagery that intentionally insults any audience. In entertainment news, the new fall shows are revealing their cast, and among them is a new black Charlie's Angel. Annie Ilonzeh plays an ex-cop on the new series. 27-year-old is a veteran of General Hospital. She stars with other relative newcomers, Minka Kelly and Rachel Taylor. The show is executive produced by Charlie's Angels movie star Drew Barrymore. When it comes to movies, are African Americans keeping it real or watching more mainstream than black movies? A new BET poll shows that 81% of the movies seen by African Americans don't prominently feature an African American cast, lead actor, or storyline. The study also revealed that on average, African Americans go to the movies 13.4 times a year compared to 11 times a year for general moviegoers. Comedies are the most popular among blacks, followed by action-adventure, romance, science fiction, and animation. And finally, he was an artist and entertainer, but above all, a fighter for the rights of blacks in Brazil. Abdias Nascimento died at his home last week. The author of several books and plays, Nascimento started his activism in the 1930s in Brazil, believing that blacks in his country were treated as second or even third-class citizens. He was elected to Brazil's Federation of Deputies in 1983, and then to the Brazilian Senate in 1994, where he served till 1999. In 2004, he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Abdias Nascimento was 98. For a complete check of any of the stories you've seen on The Rewind, remember, as always, go to the bottom of the webpage, find the link of the story you'd like to see, and click your way through. That's your Our News Now Rewind for this week. I'm Gary Anthony Ramsay.
I'm a psychic detective.
You're gonna look like a couple of nut jobs.
It's boogie time.
Psych Season 5. One of the wittiest shows on TV.
You mocking my It's a Clue face?
Yep.